NBA Legends Profile. The story of Giannis Antetokounmpo, career retrospective. The lineage of the Titans. Mikan, Kareem, and the modern monster. To understand the magnitude of Giannis Antetokounmpo, one must first look through the dusty, sepia-toned glass of basketball antiquity. The evolution of the NBA's dominant big man is not a linear progression. It is a relay race where the baton is forged from sheer size, relentless will, and an insatiable appetite for dominance. By examining the foundations laid by the game's original pivot men, we can fully appreciate how the Greek freak bridged the gap between the archaic eras and the hyper-athletic, positionless modern game. The blueprint of the dominant big man begins with George Mikan in the late 1940s and early 1950s. Standing at /6 feet /10 inches, Mikan was an alien in a land of mortals. He dwarfed his competition, utilizing a brute force approach and the revolutionary hook shot to carve out space in a paint teeming with physicality. Mikan's dominance was so absolute that the NBA had to widen the foul lane and introduce goaltending rules just to contain him. He was the immovable object, a player who established the psychological expectation of what a championship center should look like. Fast forward to the late 1960s and 1970s, and the archetype underwent a radical evolution of grace and unstoppable scoring with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem took the size of Mikan and infused it with balletic fluidity. Standing /7 feet /2 inches, Kareem patented the skyhook, an unblockable, looping shot that rendered defenders entirely obsolete. Beyond his physical gifts, Kareem introduced a philosophical depth and a legendary durability to the center position, dominating multiple decades and redefining how long a true giant could reign at the highest level of basketball. Decades later, as the league shifted toward perimeter play, small ball lineups, and spacing, purists mourned the death of the traditional paint-dominating Titan. The game seemingly became the domain of guards and sharpshooters. Enter Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis did not merely adapt to the modern era. He shattered the conceptual ceiling of what a modern big man could be. Standing /6 feet /11 inches with a /7 foot /3 wingspan, Giannis inherited the physical dominance of Mikan and the devastating interior scoring efficiency of Kareem. However, he introduced an entirely unprecedented dimension: perimeter ball handling, transition speed, and defensive versatility that allowed him to guard all 5 positions. To explain this to the younger generation of hoopers, the blockchain kids and AAU prodigies who obsess over three-point percentages and highlight reel handles, one must trace the lineage. When Kareem dominated the paint, he did so with his back to the basket. When Giannis dominates, he does so facing up from /30 feet out, gathering the ball at the three-point line and covering the distance to the rim in a terrifying singular stride. By detailing the histories of Mikan and Kareem to these young basketball minds, the evolutionary leap becomes glaringly obvious. Mikan commanded the paint by virtue of being bigger than everyone. Kareem commanded it through elegant technique and unblockable shots. Giannis, however, conquered the entire hardwood by combining the sheer, overwhelming size of his predecessors with the speed, agility, and court vision of a traditional point guard. He is the culmination of everything that came before him, warped into a /240 pound marvel of modern biomechanics. In this sense, Giannis is the ultimate bridge. He teaches the modern youth that while the game's geometry has shifted to the perimeter, the fundamental requirement of interior dominance has not vanished. He proves that size, strength, and a relentless assault on the painted area remain the most lethal weapons in basketball history, provided those traits are upgraded with the fluid athleticism required to thrive in /2026. The Metamorphosis, the dichotomy of the physical form, perhaps the most compelling narrative device in the story of Giannis Antetokounmpo, is the staggering before and after of his physical transformation. It is a tale of biological alchemy, turning the raw clay of a spindly teenager into one of the most physically imposing, terrifyingly sculpted athletes in the history of professional sports. When Giannis stepped onto the hardwood of the Bradley Center in 2013 as a raw backslash, 18 backslash, year-old rookie drafted out of the obscurity of the Greek second division, he was an embodiment of vulnerability. He stood backslash, 6 backslash, feet backslash, 9 backslash, inches but weighed barely backslash, 196 backslash pounds. His limbs were comically long, his shoulders narrow, and his frame strikingly frail. NBA veterans looked at the teenager not as a formidable adversary, but as fresh meat. In the paint, he was frequently pushed off his spots, bullied by stronger forwards, and physically displaced by the rugged, bruising physicality that defined the early backslash, 2010 backslash NBA. However, hidden beneath that lean, almost malnourished exterior was a frame built for biomechanical anomaly. His hands were enormous, his Achilles tendons measured at an absurd length, and his work ethic bordered on the fanatical. The story of Giannis's rookie year is famously punctuated by stories of him lifting weights in the arena after games, and the harrowing realization that he would send his brother to the bank with his entire paycheck while he stayed at the practice facility, surviving on whatever food he could find. Over the next several years, the Metamorphosis began, orchestrated meticulously by the Milwaukee Bucks sports performance and medical staffs. It was a calculated, grueling process designed to add functional muscle mass without sacrificing his elasticity, speed, or lateral quickness, the very traits that made him a generational prospect. The transformation is best visualized by comparing two distinct eras of Giannis. In 2013, he was an erratic, skinny gazelle, driving to the basket with reckless abandon, frequently losing control upon contact and struggling to absorb the impact of NBA-level defensive rotations. His vertical pop was there, but his core strength was insufficient to convert through heavy traffic. Contrast this with the Giannis of the late 2010s and beyond, a Greek god sculpted from granite. His shoulders broadened dramatically, his chest expanded, and his legs grew into tree trunks capable of generating explosive, floor-shattering force. He added nearly 50 pounds of pure, functional muscle to his frame. This wasn't the bulky, immobile muscle of traditional 1990 S centers. It was lean, twitchy, explosive power. This transformation allowed Giannis to master the physics of basketball. The physical dichotomy altered his entire game. The skinny kid who was easily displaced became the immovable object. Instead of absorbing contact and losing the ball, Giannis became the initiator of contact. When he caught the ball at the top of the key and initiated his Euro step, the ensuing momentum became a physics problem that opposing defenders simply could not solve. If they stood their ground against his 240 pound frame, they were flattened. If they yielded, he effortlessly rose above them for thunderous dunks. Furthermore, this physical evolution unlocked his defensive potential. The frail rookie who was overpowered by power forwards evolved into an all-defensive first-team stalwart. His augmented strength allowed him to battle legitimate 7 footers in the low post, while his retained agility permitted him to switch on guards on the perimeter. He became the ultimate defensive anchor, a free safety who could erase mistakes and protect the rim with authority. For the modern youth, the story of Giannis's physical evolution serves as a masterclass in the value of dedication, diet, and relentless strength and conditioning. It demonstrates that talent alone is insufficient. True dominance requires a deliberate, uncompromising dedication to building one's physical temple. His before image tells the story of an underdog with a dream, while his after image stands as an intimidating reality for every other franchise in the league. The rise from the shadows, the odyssey of the Greek freak, the trajectory of Giannis Antetokounmpo is not merely a sports story. It is a modern-day odyssey that reads like myth. Long before he was dominating the painted area and rewriting the record books, Giannis was navigating the harsh realities of life in the shadows of Athens, Greece. Born to Nigerian immigrants who had emigrated to Greece seeking a better life, Giannis and his brothers faced severe systemic hurdles. They lacked official documentation for much of their early lives, existing on the fringes of society. As children, Giannis and his older brother Thanasis would sell watches, sunglasses, and bags on the streets of Sepolia to help their family survive. Basketball was not just a sport. It was an escape, a sanctuary, and a faint beacon of hope in a life defined by daily economic struggle. When he was discovered playing for the local youth squad Philiphlidikos, his raw potential was undeniable, but the path to the NBA was fraught with administrative and financial hurdles. Scouts who traveled to Greece to evaluate him did not just see a basketball player. They saw a project of unprecedented proportions. When the Milwaukee Bucks selected him with the /15 th overall pick in the /2013 NBA draft, it was widely viewed as a high-risk, high-reward gamble on a player who was essentially a mystery wrapped in a spindly frame. Yet, the very struggles of his youth forged the psychological steel that would eventually define his career. The humility, the hunger for success, and the intense loyalty he developed toward the city of Milwaukee were all byproducts of his arduous journey. He did not arrive in the NBA with a sense of entitlement. He arrived with the desperate work ethic of someone who knew exactly what it was like to have nothing. The ascent to superstition. Mastering the modern game, once the Milwaukee Bucks secured their hidden gem, the project of developing Giannis began in earnest. Under the tutelage of various coaching staffs, most notably the tactical genius of Mike Budenholzer and the developmental focus of head coach Jason Kidd, who famously transitioned Giannis into a primary ball handler, the Greek freak began to blossom. The turning point of his career arrived when he was named the NBA's most valuable player in the /2018 /2019 season, an accolade he repeated the very next year in /2019 /2020 During this stretch, Giannis achieved something that had never been seen before in basketball history. He dominated the paint with a scoring efficiency that rivaled the most legendary centers of the past. Yet he did so while leading the fast break and orchestrating his team's offense. His signature move, the Euro step, became a terrifying weapon. Because of his incredible wingspan and the sheer length of his stride, Giannis could gather the basketball outside the painted area and, with just one or two steps, reach the rim from the free throw line. Defenders were paralyzed. If a defender committed too early, Giannis would pivot around them. If they waited, he would simply elevate over them. His playstyle fundamentally broke opposing defensive schemes. Teams were forced to construct the Greek freak rules, essentially building a human wall of 3 to 4 defenders in the paint, daring Giannis to shoot from the perimeter. While his outside shot was often the subject of intense scrutiny, Giannis continually worked to refine his jumper, developing a reliable mid-range turnaround and punishing teams who sagged off him too heavily. Perhaps the most astonishing aspect of his ascent was his dominance without a traditional ball-dominant playmaker alongside him. Giannis was the playmaker. He would grab a defensive rebound, push the ball up the court like a point guard, and either find an open shooter in the corner or finish the play himself with a gravity-defying dunk. He became a statistical anomaly, putting up historical player efficiency ratings, PER, that placed him in the rarefied air of Wilt Chamberlain and Michael Jordan. The crown jewel, the /2021 championship for all his regular season dominance, MVPs, and Defensive Player of the Year awards, the true measure of a legend in the NBA, is cemented in the postseason. For Giannis, the defining moment of his career arrived in the /2021 NBA Finals against the Phoenix Suns. The journey to that championship series was fraught with near misses and heartbreak. In previous years, the Bucks had secured the best record in the league only to falter in the playoffs, leading critics to question whether Giannis' style of play could translate to the grind of championship basketball. Those doubts reached a fever pitch in the /2021 Eastern Conference Finals, where Giannis suffered a horrifying hyperextension of his knee. It seemed as though his championship dreams were over. Yet, in a display of superhuman resilience, Giannis missed only a few games and returned for the NBA Finals. What followed was one of the most spectacular individual performances in the history of sport. Facing a /2 0 series deficit against a formidable Suns team, Giannis put the Bucks on his back. In game /3 he recorded /41 points and /13 rebounds. In game /4 he delivered one of the most iconic defensive plays in finals history, a chase-down block on DeAndre Ayton that seemed to defy the laws of physics. But it was in game /6 in front of a roaring home crowd in Milwaukee that Giannis fully immortalized himself. He dropped /50 points, /14 rebounds, and /5 blocks, shooting /16 a /25 from the field, and an astounding /17 a /19 from the free throw line, a known weakness that he completely conquered on the grandest stage. As the final buzzer sounded, securing the Bucks' first championship in /50 years, Giannis collapsed onto the scorer's table, overcome with emotion. He was unanimously named the Finals MVP. In a matter of mere years, he had transitioned from a teenager selling trinkets on the streets of Athens to the undisputed king of the basketball world. The boy who lacked official documentation had become the most celebrated athlete on the planet, bringing a title to the very city that had embraced him when he was an unknown project. Legacy in the future. The legend continues as we look at the basketball landscape in /2026 The legacy of Giannis Antetokounmpo is firmly cemented among the all-time greats. However, the story is far from finished. Following his /2021 triumph, Giannis continued to evolve. Recognizing the wear and tear on his body and the changing tactical landscape of the league, he adapted his game once again. He became a more astute passer, learning to read double teams faster than ever before. He refined his post-up game, incorporating elements inspired by the greats of the past. Study sessions with legends like Hakeem Olajuwon further polished his footwork, adding grace and guile to his overwhelming power. His cultural impact extends far beyond the hardwood. Giannis has become a global ambassador for the game of basketball. His journey resonates with people worldwide, symbolizing the triumph of hard work, humility, and family over seemingly insurmountable odds. Alongside his brothers, Thanasis, Kostas, and Alex, he has built a family legacy that will be discussed for generations. The establishment of the Charles Antetokounmpo Family Foundation, named in honor of his late father, showcases his commitment to giving back to the communities in Greece and Nigeria that shaped him. In Milwaukee, Giannis is not merely an athlete, he is a civic icon. He made the rare, commendable decision in the modern era of player empowerment to remain loyal to the small-market franchise that drafted him, signing massive contract extensions to keep his prime years in Wisconsin. In doing so, he proved that a superstar does not need to force their way to a coastal metropolis to build a dynasty and capture a championship. He showed that with the right culture, loyalty, and relentless dedication, a small-market team can dominate the league. Furthermore, Giannis represents the ultimate blueprint for the next generation of basketball players. For the young AU phenoms and international prospect alike, Giannis is the living proof that positionless basketball has no limits. He teaches young players to embrace their height, to never stop developing their handles, and to treat the defensive end of the floor with the same passion as the offensive end. He bridges the gap between eras because he plays with the interior ferocity of George Mikan, the unstoppable scoring of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and the modern, coast-to-coast athleticism of a /21 SD Sentry Guard. To tell the story of Giannis Antetokounmpo is to tell a tale of human resilience. It is a story about a kid from Sopolia who dared to dream, who transformed his physical vulnerabilities into unmatched strengths, and who took the lessons learned from the pantheon of basketball giants and wrote his own legendary chapter. His odyssey is far from over, but already the Greek Freak has secured his place on the Mount Rushmore of modern basketball, forever changing the way we view the power, the grace, and the limitless potential of the NBA big man.